welcome to Stillspeakpod. So I tried to record this last night, but my app was being a total pain in the ass and would stop recording at random times, so I finally gave up. I mean, it would record like 20 minutes and then it would delete everything I just said. It was just absolutely frustrating. And, I need to find a new one, basically, because it's been giving me a hard time. But anyways, Wednesday night I brought you the bizarre disappearance of Heidi Planck out of California. And when I made that video, I said that I was going to be digging deeper into the case. And what I actually brought in that video was basic information. Who's Heidi? Who does she work for? What are the circumstances, etc. And yesterday, I got so deep into the rabbit hole about this case, I almost couldn't find my way out. No joke. And at some point, I probably had about 60 different tabs open on my computer. But I did make it out because I'm here, right? So I'm probably going to be making a third video, but it may take just a day or two because I do have family in town. So just bear with me. They came in from another state for a few days. So anyways, for those who did not see my Heidi Planck video, please go take a listen. But for those who did hear it, let's get back to it. So it's so easy to think that Heidi's disappearance is part of some massive fraud scheme involving millions of dollars. But as we've seen in the Petito Laundry case, where most thought that Brian Laundrie was on the run and that his parents' silence meant that they were aiding him, well, as of now, it appears that all of the speculation and theories about that was totally off-base. And a woman being kidnapped and possibly murdered in downtown LA is not as juicy as, oh my God, this woman who's attached to all these shady people and companies has suddenly vanished and she may have been silenced forever, right? And I don't know what I believe at this point. I will admit it's really compelling of a theory to think that it's connected to her company, especially after new footage was released today, which we're definitely going to get into shortly. Well, anyways, last we spoke, Heidi, I said that I found it strange that her dog, whose name I now know, which his name is Seven. I'm not sure where she got that name, but yes, his name is Seven. He's adorable, and he has a very cute name to boot. But I also had guessed that he was probably a Schnauzer Doodle. Well, I was half right. He's a Bern Noodle, which is a Bernese Mountain Dog Poodle mix. Not that it matters, but hey, he's a big part of the story in my opinion, so, why not tell you a little bit about him? Well, we had discussed that Seven was found by a resident of a high-rise apartment complex in downtown LA on the 28th floor of this complex. And the place's name is called Hope and Flower, and it's located at 1201 Hope Street, which intersects with, guess what street? Flower Street. Yes, of course. Hence the name, right? And I said in my first video that the more I looked at this building, the more I kept thinking about the Elisa Lam story. I was just getting this weird vibe. And Elisa was the woman who went missing in the Cecil Hotel and ultimately was found in a water tank on the roof. Now, the Cecil Hotel is actually called Stay on Main now. And when I looked it up, that location known previously as the Cecil Hotel, is only about 1.5 miles from this building that 7 was found in, which is at the Hope and Flower. And it probably means absolutely nothing, but I just wanted to mention that. And personally, I can't get past the fact that the dog was found at that building. Now, is it a fact? Maybe. And so I'll say it like this. If 7 was found there, okay, why do I say if? Well, that's what the person who found him claims happened, right? And we don't know if security footage supports their claim. But allegedly they found the dog wandering on the 28th floor. Now, it's most likely the truth. But if so, then how on earth did this dog get there? It makes me think that Heidi was at that building at some point, or someone wanted people to be distracted by where the dog was found. So while most are so focused heavily on Heidi's employer and his shady dealings, I'm over here obsessing over this building. And it's in downtown LA. And it's no secret that there's a lot of crime in LA. And it's also located not far from the Staples Center, which is only about 200 yards away. And everybody should know what the Staples Center is, okay? Most everybody listening should know. If you don't, because maybe you're from another country, then you most likely heard about Kobe Bryant's death. And if you heard about Kobe Bryant's death, then I will say to you, well, he was a LA Laker, and the LA Lakers play at the Staples Center. So anyway, I started researching, and the first thing I wanted to do was to Google if there was any suspicious deaths involved with the Hope and Flower or any buildings surrounding it. And I did find an article from 2017 about a woman named Lisa Ramirez, who at the time was 32 years old, and according to her family, was about to get married right before her murder. Lisa had struggled with some learning disabilities, but had obtained a job as a groundskeeper at a different building than the Hope and Flower, and the building that she worked at was called the Flower Loft. Lisa was working one day in 2017 in the courtyard of the complex, and one of the tenants, Michael Rogers, ushered her into his unit. Minutes later, Lisa was dead from stab wounds. Her body was found in his apartment later after Michael Rogers was shot dead by the LAPD on a nearby street. Lisa's mother said an investigator told her that security camera footage actually captured her daughter following Rogers out of the courtyard, and then a few minutes later, Rogers drags her into his apartment and kills Lisa. Later, Rogers walked to a nearby residential tower that's never been named and made his way to the 15th floor and tried to access a balcony in an effort to commit suicide by jumping off. And police security ended up kicking him out. And then later, a different security guard saw Rogers trying to carjack a car nearby, and the LA police were called. And when they arrived, they actually found him back in front of the building he originally got kicked out of, and he was wielding a knife, and then he was ultimately shot. Now, does her story line up with Heidi's story? No, and that's not what I'm saying. I was just trying to see if there was any other type of crazy murders or any type of suspicious deaths involved with this building, and this was close by, so I wanted to share it. So after I looked that up, I then went to the crime map for the general area around the building for the last 4 weeks, since it has been about 3 weeks that Heidi has been missing. And of course, there is significant amount of crimes in the last 4 weeks near there. I mean, we're talking assault, theft, car break-ins, and more. And then I narrowed it down to the day that she went missing and the next day, so the 17th and 18th. And nothing significant happened nearby on the 17th. But what did jump out to me was that there was a car stolen at about 2 a.m. on the 18th. Now, does it mean anything? I have no freaking clue. I am not LAPD. Maybe, maybe not. But I mean, it's something to note in case, someone did something horrific and they needed a getaway, that maybe they stole a car, okay? And maybe later we can find out if it's connected in some way. It just stood out to me, so I'm sharing it. I then checked for traffic cameras, and I've never been to California, so I was unsure of how Cali does it. So I did a search, and I found that there are 3 red light traffic cameras off of Flower Street. And I really couldn't tell if it only captures if you run a red light or if it runs continuously to catch someone running a red light. And it does vary from state to state and area to area, but I couldn't find a direct answer. But again, this is something, to just note, because she may have drove past those lights, and if she did and it's continuously recording, then police would have access to that footage. And those locations were Flower and 18th Street, Flower and I-10, and Flower and Venice. And during all of my search surrounding this building, I also saw that a person had died when a minivan caught fire on Halloween. The name, age, and gender of the person who had died has not been released, but they did find someone deceased inside the vehicle on the 8400 block of Flower Street. And they're waiting to determine who was in this car. Again, is this connected? I mean, probably not, but I'm mentioning it. I mean, it is 2 weeks after she went missing, so it's more than likely it's not connected, but it's something we need to make mental note of in case later we find out that it is connected. We can think back to it and say, oh wow, remember when that car was on fire? Now, a friend said that she had picked up Heidi at that building. What building? The Hope and Flower, just to be specific. But she said she didn't know why Heidi was there. And it was in 2020. I personally find this hard to believe because if they're friends, I mean, why would you not know why she was there? I mean, wouldn't that come up at some point like, hey, sure, I'll pick you up, but what you doing at this building? I don't know. I just think that friends would have discussed that. And even further, Heidi has a car, so why would she need to be picked up from there? And lastly, LA was one, if not the only, strictest, oh my God, what word was that? I'm sorry. Strictest place in America as far as COVID guidelines are concerned. And they were locked down for a really long time. And even if you Google downtown LA COVID, there's like these endless amounts of articles talking about downtown LA being a ghost town during their months and months of lockdowns. And so could she have visited this Hope and Flower building in 2020? I mean, I guess. Maybe. It's just odd given circumstances of all the things that I just said. Hey, I don't know if this woman really is even a friend, but this is her claim in one of the groups. So then I thought about dog-friendly restaurants and bars near the building, thinking, I don't know, maybe she met someone for a date or a business meeting and then something happened, and then after that, maybe the dog 7 wandered into this building at 1201 Hope Street. Now, there are several restaurants and bars with patios that do allow dogs that are very close by. But then I learned about the building's security measures. They do have valet, concierge, security team, security cameras, and you need a key fob to get in the building, and then you need it again to get upstairs via the elevator. And unless you're visiting someone, then that person who lives there needs to meet you downstairs before you can even get upstairs. I'm someone who's terrified of elevators. I cannot help it. I will ride them, but maybe only to the 10th floor by myself. And anything above that, I need to be with somebody I know. So I do avoid elevators at all costs. I had a situation when I was a kid at our local mall with an elevator, and ever since then, I can't get over my fear of elevators. It sucks because it makes my life a whole lot harder than it needs to be. And this was a long time ago. We're talking 25 years plus. But it is what it is. And so with staircases in buildings like this, I'm very familiar with them because I will walk 10 flights of stairs to avoid the elevator. And typically there's a door to open to get to the stairs, and then there's another door at the floor that you're going to get off at. And let's face it, right? The dog isn't opening doors. This isn't a movie, okay? This isn't Shaggy the dog. Now, some of you who are really young aren't going to have a freaking clue who the heck Shaggy is, but most of you do. So I highly doubt the dog was able to open the door, climb 28 flights of stairs, and then open another door. And I also find it hard to believe that this dog got past the valet people and the concierge and the security team and then the residents who were coming and going. It seems like a hell of a stretch, okay? I highly doubt that's what happened, that this dog got up to the 28th floor by themselves. And the security footage for this building is so extensive and includes each floor. And this brings me to that the Robbery and Homicide Division of the LAPD has gotten the footage into their custody now, allegedly, after obtaining a search warrant because they were not cooperating at first. They have their work cut out for them, that's for sure. And at this point, you know, their eyes are probably crossing because not only are they looking for Heidi on that footage, but they're also going to be looking for the dog 7 and how he arrived to this building. So that's going to take them some time. And the Robbery and Homicide Division was also there when the feds entered Heidi's home with guns out on the 29th, which was 9 days after being reported missing. It's odd for sure, okay, because she is missing and a victim. But the question here, and I think it's the million-dollar question of this story, is she really a victim? Is Heidi Planck a victim? We don't know. And we don't know her involvement in her boss's wrongdoings and criminal activity. And, you hear robbery and homicide division, and you're like, what? I thought she was just a missing person. Well, the RHD investigates serial homicides, all types of robberies, and sexual assaults. It also deals with major extortions, kidnappings for ransom, human trafficking, and coyotes. Noteworthy cases that they have actually investigated include the Black Dahlia murder, the assassination of Robert F. Kennedy, the Charles Manson family, the Skid Row slasher, the infamous O.J. Simpson, and even the murder of Christopher Wallace, aka Notorious B.I.G., one of my favorites, to name a few. And I might have just shown my age right there. So it's really bizarre, right, that they're involved, yet it's really fascinating that they're involved. What do they know? Or are they involved because of a possible connection to Heidi's boss's wrongdoings in an investigation? Or maybe because Heidi was more involved than anyone thought she was? Which brings me to, what did Heidi know? At the end of the day, she knew something. There's no way around it. The trial and sentencing of Jason Sugarman's business partner, Jason Galanis, was not yesterday. It was a few years ago. And the investigation into Sugarman has been going on for roughly the same amount of time. So she continued to work there despite knowing the allegations against them. And it's really, honestly, bluntly, and some people might not like this, but it really wasn't the best choice that she made, in my opinion. And one can say that maybe she was looking for a new job, but looking for a new one for 2 years? And others might say maybe she was worried about leaving because the amount of things that they put under her name and address caused her to be fearful. To that I say, I guess, maybe, but regardless, she knew. And the extent of what she knew, or what parts she knew, if any, was she involved? That remains to be seen. And as a financial controller of this business, it tells me she likely did have a hand in some of it, even if it was unknowingly. Now, this brings me to the home that Heidi was living in. There are a ton, I'm not kidding, a ton of LLC companies attached to the home that she was living in. And her ex-husband, Jim Wayne, said that she made $125K a year with $1,500 a month bonus, which is an additional $18K a year, which would bring it to about $143,000 a year. Now for LA, that's really not a lot. For where I live, it's a ton, okay? And the house that she was living in comes in at a whopping $1.3 million. And the house is beautiful, but my God, it is so oddly placed. It does not fit in with the neighborhood at all. Be my guest. Go to Google Earth. Look it up. 3132 Helms Avenue, Los Angeles. And when you pull it up, you'll see that it's an older picture, but you'll see how out of place it is. And the images on Google Earth are from when it was under construction. And you'll see a blue construction fence. And on that fence, there's banners. And one of the banners says Bank of California. Now, not B-A-N-K, it's B-A-N-C of California. Now, the former chief executive and chairman of Bank of California is Stephen Sugarman. Who is Stephen Sugarman? Well, he's the brother of Jason Sugarman. And Jason Sugarman is Heidi's boss. And Stephen Sugarman actually resigned as chairman and CEO of the Bank of California in 2017 when SEC investigated Bank of California. Now, if you remember from my first video, Jason Sugarman and his business partner, Jason Galanis, were investigated by who? SEC. So the Sugarmans are up to some sugar, if you know what I'm talking about. And if you're not sure what I mean by that, then I would say, well, the Sugarmans are not, some upstanding citizens, okay? Now, that was in 2017 that he resigned, and this banner is on this home for 2019. Now, some people keep saying that the house is under Sugarman's name. What I found was not Sugarman. It was somebody who I have no freaking clue who it is, to be honest with you. So I don't know where they're getting that information, but it doesn't appear to be attached to Sugarman. But it is fascinating that Jason Sugarman's brother, Stephen Sugarman's company that he did work for, that he was the executive and, CEO of that company's name was on the construction fence of this home that Heidi was living in. Now, I do not see that Heidi owned this home. She most likely rented it, and I have to wonder if this was a home that was given to her for working at the company that she was working for with Jason Sugarman. Now, we're going to get further into Jason Sugarman, okay? And we're going to get into Stephen Sugarman and Jason Galanis and all the different connections and craziness that involves these people that leads back to Heidi, but not in this video, okay? I'm going to leave you hanging because I need to cross my T's, dot my I's, and make sure I have this web of shadiness completely worked out to bring that to you. And what's crazy is that Heidi's 2017, now remember, 2017 is when Stephen Sugarman resigned. And she has a 2017 Range Rover. Not sure how long she has it for. It's still allegedly missing. And the crazy thing about this is that I kept hearing everybody say that they had researched the license plate number and they could not find this car registered anywhere in California. But it does have California plates because the police put out the license plate number. So I was like, that's impossible. It's got to be out there somewhere. It's got a license plate. I mean, come on. Well, no, I was wrong, because I tried and tried. I probably spent about 2 hours trying to find this car's license plate registered in California with absolutely no luck. Okay? So that is shady as all hell. Why isn't this car registered? Why can't you find the information? Very intriguing. Was this a car that was a company car? Maybe she had a company car and a company home and $125,000 a year plus bonuses? Maybe. But strange nonetheless that you cannot find it registered. So what's that about? Now, Jim Wayne, her ex-husband, who's been very talkative, and we talked about him a little bit, he's actually a hairstylist to the stars, okay? And he owns a salon in the area, the Jim Wayne Salon. So you have Heidi attached to these sugarman people, okay, who are relatively well known, at least to Sec. And then you have Jim Wayne, who's this hairdresser to the stars and has this prestigious, well-known salon. And then you have her boyfriend. Her boyfriend is, from what I can see, a VP for Mark Zuckerberg's wife's foundation. Or company, foundation. I'm not really sure what they reference it. But he's connected to Mark Zuckerberg. Did I say Zuckerberg? I might have said Zuckerberg because that's what I constantly refer to him as. Obviously, it's Zuckerberg. But, I mean, come on, let's be real. Mark's a pain in the ass, okay? Facebook is not what it used to be. So, I call him Zuckerberg. So Heidi's connected to a lot of prominent type people, well-known people. Some people who have interesting business connections, okay? Because even Sugarman and Galanis, their company, there's some sort of connection to Hunter Biden. And I'm not looking to get into politics here, but a lot came out about Hunter Biden prior to the election that involved very alarming and sketchy business dealings. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. And so, he's also a Biden, so that's a big name, you know what I mean? I mean, his father was the vice president, now he's the president. And Hunter Biden himself, let's be real, is also not some upstanding citizen, okay? And if you're somebody who saw his laptop, you know what I mean, okay? I wish I didn't see it, okay? And I keep saying okay, but it's true. It's really, really true. There are things on that I wish I never saw. But anyways, so this is really a fascinating story. There's a lot of big names and connections. But at the end of the day, are all these big names and connections, are they a part of the story into the disappearance of Heidi? I'm not sure. Could it be? Sure, yeah. I mean, as of now, because we know little to nothing, since police have not given even a press conference about her being missing, yeah, sure, we could consider that, absolutely. Is it more interesting and fascinating and juicy that it's connected to all these people in some way? Sure, absolutely it is. But I said it on this channel, I'm gonna say it again, and I mostly said it during the Brian Laundrie and Gabby Petito case, and that is the simplest and easy answer is usually the right one. You don't have to get some complex to find the right answer. Do I think her disappearance involves Mark Zuckerberg? Most likely not. Most likely not. Plausible, of course, when you don't have any information. Yeah, sure. Is, Hunter Biden involved? No. No. Sounds crazy. At the same time, juicy. You can think that, but no. No way. Is her disappearance involved in what's going on with her boss, Jason Sugarman? Yes. Yes, yes, and yes. It's totally possible. And I say this because new footage came out, and the footage is suspicious as all hell, being blunt here. So the footage is a few days after Heidi went missing, after she had been reported missing, and it is of Jason Sugarman going to the home of Heidi Planck, and he rings the doorbell, he bends down, he puts something down on the ground, and he turns around and he leaves. He doesn't wait for her to answer the door, nothing. He's wearing a hat. Apparently he had left muffins, which is weird in itself for a boss to go past somebody's home and leave muffins outside the door. Maybe if it's a female, but not typically a male, unless you're sick. Now, here's the thing that kind of throws me off is that Jim Wayne, the ex-husband, said that when he spoke with Sugarman's assistant, that he was really adamant about Heidi Planck's work laptop. I don't know when he spoke to them the exact date and how it connects to this video. Was this before he spoke to him or after? Meaning, at this time, when Sugarman goes to her home, is it before or after he knew about Heidi being missing? And if it was after and he knew that Heidi was missing, then why is he going to her house, ringing the doorbell, and then immediately leaving muffins and turning around and leaving? I mean, somebody just told you she's missing. And up until I saw this footage, I was like, I don't know, man. I don't know if this job thing is connected. And then I saw this video, and if I ever saw a video that seemed like an attempt to create some sort of, image, this would be it. Again, he rang the doorbell. He stood there for seconds, maybe under 5 seconds, placed the muffins down on her front area, and then left. Didn't wait for her to answer the door. Didn't try to peek in the side window to see if she was attempting to come to the door. So what are you doing? Why are you leaving those muffins? It's just really sketchy. And I also find it really interesting that obviously it was the LAPD who released this video. And you have to think, okay, what's their motive behind releasing this video, right? Why are they sharing this? What does this show us, the public, in relation to Heidi's disappearance? Like, why do we need to see this video? There's a lot of confusion out there about certain parts of this story. And one of those is the phone. So allegedly she had a personal phone and a business phone and a laptop. And some people took it that Jim Wayne, her ex-husband, went to the home during a wellness check on the 20th. I assume he got in because his son, probably has access to it. And inside the home, he found a phone and a laptop. And I think a lot of people assumed that it was her personal phone. I assumed it was her business phone. And there's not a whole lot of clarity on which it was. And people found it sketchy that Jim Wayne said that he got the phone and he didn't look in the phone until about 5 days later. And then he got into the phone. That's when he saw a text about the dog being found. And he was looking for family and friends numbers in the phone that he didn't have to call them to see if they knew anything. And yeah, that can come across suspicious because it's like, why wouldn't you either turn it over to the police or look in it right away? Why did you hang on to it for a couple of days and then looked in it? And the only thing I can come up with that is that, when a missing person is a adult, the typical response from law enforcement is, well, they're an adult, they can disappear, give it a few days, the typical. And I get why they do that, right? Because before you start pouring all these resources, it can be something so simple. And yes, adults can disappear if they want to disappear. And so the only thing I can think of is that he got the phone and then thought at some point the police were going to want the phone, so he didn't want to access the phone, like get into the phone. And after a few days of the police not wanting the phone, he ultimately decided that there might be, relative type of information in the phone that could be helpful in locating Heidi, and then finally decided to look in the phone. But there's still a lot of confusion. Was it her personal phone or her business phone? A lot of people have information in both phones, like friends and family numbers in both phones. So there's just a lot of confusion about this. Because people are like, well, if it was her personal phone, does that mean that she went back home after the game that she was seen at, at her son's game, and at some point left the phone and then left again? And my hiccup with that was, well, there would be footage of her returning home and then footage of her leaving the home. And we supposedly only saw video footage of her leaving the home to go to her son's game, and she's like in a t-shirt and jeans. But some articles were saying, specifically The Sun, which is not a credible, great paper, was saying that it was after the game and her leaving the home again. I don't know where they're getting that information, because most everybody else is reporting that footage that I shared in the first video is her leaving to go to the game. So I don't know which phone he had. It's really confusing. No one seems to know. And so I'm really, a facts type person. And since the police have not even done one single press conference about Heidis disappearance, I think we're all just kind of guessing here, okay? And we have no idea. That's the bottom line. So I was thinking about it. I was thinking about when the police, or I should say feds, and the Robbery Homicide Division went to Heidi's home on the 29th, and they entered the home with their guns drawn and collected evidence and was taking pictures and whatnot. I started thinking about it a little bit more, and that was before I saw this footage today of the boss going to her home. And my thought process was like, well, why would they do this to a woman who's missing? Why are they entering her home like it's a crime scene when the person who reported her missing, told you that he went to the home, she wasn't there, and the house was pristine and all this stuff. Like, why would you think this was some form of crime scene, 9 days later? And my thought was, maybe the police had some sort of information that Jason Sugarman went to this home after Heidi went missing for whatever reason, okay? And in my head, I was thinking, maybe if they knew that, like they got security footage from her home and they had seen him at the home, that they thought that something happened in the home after that. Well, what do you know? Then I see this footage of him going to the home, and I was like, holy crap, because this is what I was thinking in my head, was that they went back there thinking maybe he was cleaning up a crime or trying to hide evidence of some sort, or maybe went there after the fact. Now, there's countless murders where somebody cleaned up after the fact, and it might look to you as you're looking around as being completely clean and you wouldn't have a freaking clue that anything happened. But it's a whole nother story when, actual investigators go in there, they know what they're looking for, and they're looking at, blinds and crevices and all kinds of things, and they might find something that you thought you cleaned up, but you didn't. So then I thought about the robbery and homicide thing again, and I'm like, okay, are they investigating this as a missing persons case, or are they investigating this as Heidi is involved in some way? Because this division does investigate extortion and things similar to that. It's just very odd to see them involved, okay, when she's supposed to be missing in all of this. So it's like, why are you involved here? There's something going on, whether it's because they ultimately have decided that she was involved, or if they have information that she's trying to hide from something, or there's some connection to Sugarman, or they think that she is deceased and that's why they're involved. Who knows? We can, speculate about all sorts of different reasons why. And the big question here is, for me, does Jason Sugarman have access to her home? And was this footage of him going there and ringing the doorbell and leaving muffins kind of a test run, and he later came back? I don't know. Her ex-husband said that authorities told him that the location finder on her cell phone had been turned off, and the GPS system in her Range Rover was never set up. So when he said this, I'm like, okay, the authorities told him that the location finder on her cell phone had been turned off. This goes back to this phone confusion, because I don't think that Jim Wayne actually had her personal phone. I think it's possible he had her business phone, because why would he even ask this of police about whether or not her GPS location finder was on her cell phone if he had the phone? That leads me to believe that he thinks that she has the phone and that he wants them to locate where the phone is, and they're like, the location finder isn't on the cell phone. So this phone thing is really confusing, and I think it's one of the things that are making people look at Jim Wayne kind of sideways, like, what are you up to, bro? When in reality, we really don't know which phone he had. We don't. And just for kind of silly information here, just to let you know, Jim Wayne's salon, the amount of way it is to the Hope and Flower building is about 10 miles. From Gardendale in Downey, California, where her son's game was, to this building, the Hope and Flower, is 16 miles, but according to Google Maps, it takes you about 40 minutes. And I can only assume because LA traffic is allegedly horrific. And there were some rumors that she had her laptop at the game, which doesn't really make a whole lot of sense because it's supposed to be a business laptop. So why would she take it to her son's game? The footage of her leaving the home, if it's before the game, doesn't really show her carrying a laptop. And that would mean that she went back to the home to put the laptop back in the home. And if that was the case, then there would be footage of her returning again, that she'd be returning home and then leaving again. The fact that the police have released one footage of her leaving that's supposed to be before the game and another footage of Sugarman coming to her house with freaking muffins. Weird. I think if there was other footage, they would release that too. But hey, maybe they will, right? We don't know. The other thing that's kind of a big thing that everybody's talking about is that in the footage, the original one that I shared in the first video of her leaving the home, you see the dog. And the dog's following her to the car. But at some point, she gets in the car and starts to pull out, and it doesn't appear the dog actually gets in the car. Now, it could have been edited. It could have been clips. Maybe it did, and it was like a motion security camera. Because sometimes with those motion security cameras, it won't catch certain things. So maybe at some point, she lets the dog into the car, and we just don't see it. If the dog never got in the car, and then ends up, 3 hours after she leaves the game up at this 28th floor of this Hope and Flower, if that's true and the person who said that is accurate and truthful, then that's really freaking suspicious, because who the hell picked up that dang dog? And I really can't get on board with theories that say she's in witness protection program, because if that was the case and she was cooperating with the state, then she would have just given them her business phone and business laptop. They wouldn't have needed to break into her home with guns drawn to look for that information. And I also think they would have silenced the media and been like, shh, 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 hush, hush. I have so much more to say, but it's 52 minutes long already. Oh my God, time flies. And I do have family visiting from another state for the next couple of days, so I'm kind of strapped for time, and research takes a lot of time, okay? Yesterday, I spent hours on and off throughout the day, hours, looking for information. The other thing I was going to share before I go is that Heidi and Jim Wayne, her ex-husband, have been through some extensive custody issues over the years. There's a big list. They've been going back and forth for quite some time. And I don't know, he kind of makes it seem like they were somewhat close. But at the same time, like, if you were that close, you couldn't handle things amicably and not need to involve the court system. I don't know. I mean, my mom and stepfather are divorced, and everything was amicable and handled out of court. So, and they're like really close friends. There was even a motion filed in their back and forth custody thing 6 days after she went missing. So, make what you want of that. So what's the plausible theories here? I don't know, guys. It really could be something so normal. And by normal, I mean woman gets kidnapped and murdered in downtown LA, okay? Or it could be involved in her business. Or maybe Jim Wayne really is involved in some way. What's the motive? I don't know. Is it the custody? Is it the child support payments? Is it just wanting the kid all to himself? Who freaking knows? One of the things that really stuck out to me is, and this is in my research that I found, is that Heidi has a lot of companies attached to her name. A lot. I'm really finding it hard to believe that she didn't have some involvement. I really am. That being said, LLCs are usually used, not usually, let me rephrase that. I don't know what the hell I'm saying. Sometimes used to hide money. I said it in the first video. It's true. You hide and move money within the companies and, you know. I'm not a criminal, but I know enough about it. I've known people in my life. As a matter of fact, I actually know 2 people who are genetically related to me who are in federal prison. And they're morons who did a terrible thing to very vulnerable people and involved money and a scheme of sorts, and did involve a lot of money. And so they're where they should be. Okay? That's just being real with you. So yes, some people use LLCs to hide money. They move money around, they hide behind these LLCs. And Heidi has so many LLCs attached to her name, which is what makes it so hard for me to believe that she had no involvement in the fraud. But she also could have been completely unaware when it was going on. But at some point, she knew there was an investigation. And again, I go back to what I said at the beginning. She didn't get a new job. She didn't leave the company. If it were me, well, I can't know for sure, but I would think that I'd be like, I'm getting the hell out of here fast. There's no way I want any involvement in this. But anyway, one of the LLCs that I found that has her name on it says that this LLC and Sugarman is from, and Heidi, is from 2007. But she allegedly only worked for them for 5 years. So then I was like, all right, well, how long has she known these people? And then I was like, okay, well, maybe the LLC was formed in 2007. And later, Heidi's name was added to it. If that's not the case, and she's had some involvement with these people back to 2017, well, I'm washing my hands of everything, because then she definitely has some involvement here. 14 years. But I'm leaning towards that it was already established, and at some point she was added to it. Could they have been doing all this without her knowing? Well, here's the thing. She didn't have a degree for the job that she's doing, which, to be quite honest with you, I'm not a big degrees person. I'm just not. Unless you're going to be a doctor or a teacher and it requires a degree, I'm not a big degree person. I think that you can actually be a bookkeeper and work your way up, just based on experience. But anyways, she didn't have a degree. And so it's kind of fitting and that they would, hire someone without experience in the job position they were hiring for, because if somebody who's worked their ass off for a specific degree in something is typically, I gotta say typically, not gonna risk their degree and all they worked for to participate in some scheme. And so somebody who doesn't have a degree, who's making a decent amount of money working for this company, it's easier for them to follow suit and possibly be manipulated into doing certain things that at the time they might not know what they're doing is wrong or illegal. And, maybe at some point they find out. Basically what I'm saying here is it can go either way. It can either be that she had involvement, little or big involvement, or they were using her to hide this money through these LLC companies, possibly the home she lives in. Who knows what the hell's up with this Range Rover, since you can't find it registered anywhere. Lord only knows what's up with that. And she didn't know. But I have to remind you, and I'm not trying to be mean to Heidi here when I say this, she at some point knew that something was going on, and she chose to continue working there. Because this entire thing with Sugarman and the investigation and the SEC and his business partner Galanis, who's in prison, that's not new. It's been going on for a few years, and if she allegedly only worked there for 5 years, then that means only about 2 years into working there is when this all unfolded. And she still chose to work there. And now I'm just rambling. So, this is what we're going to do. We're going to end here for now. I'm going to come back to you at some point tomorrow. We're going to talk about the connections with the job side of the story here. And I'll bring you any developments that happen. And we're going to kind of just continue to chit-chat about all the possibilities. Where do I stand at this point? Is Heidi Planck deceased? Well, I hate to say this, but she's most likely deceased. I have to be real here. She was last seen October 17th. So, today's the 5th. So we're talking almost 3 weeks for an adult to be missing with no signs, no traces, no nothing. If she's most likely deceased. If she's not deceased, where the hell is she then? And why is she missing, or did she go missing and leave behind her son? Is this connected to? So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm kind of at the number one for me right now is it's something connected to the company and she is deceased, allegedly. You heard me, Jason Sugarman, allegedly. Or she chose to leave. That's my second theory. And my third theory is something random happened to her, like she went and met with somebody and something happened from there. And my fourth would be Jim Wayne. I know a lot of people are very sketchy of the ex-husband. I'm not getting bad vibes from him. Not yet. And then the last one would be the boyfriend, because I really don't think there was anything serious between them that he would have any involvement. Because the thing is that if Heidi was involved knowingly or unknowingly, means she knows a lot. Like her ex-husband said, she knows where the bones are buried, and she's a witness. Desperate people do desperate things, just like money makes people do desperate things. So yes, there's this huge possibility she was silenced forever. I think the theory that I can completely cross off my list at this time is that she's in witness protection. I don't think that's true at all. Besides the reasons that I already gave for not believing that, I also think that she would have at least told Jim Wayne that so that he didn't file her missing, and that he can at least know that she was okay so he can tell their son that. And say, listen, you just have to keep quiet, you know, his life's in danger, my life's in danger. And apparently she didn't do that. So no, I don't think that's the case at all. As far as the dog, this dog really just throws me off. Was it that Heidi was at that building and the dog got left when something happened to her? Or was it that someone, after doing something to Heidi elsewhere, just said, you know what, I'm going to take this dog and randomly drop it off at this building that I'm passing by to throw police off and make them confused? I don't know. It can go either way. And I'm just going through these theories because I did it in the first video. I'm doing this video, and this is after I did some digging, and so I kind of want to show you where my brain is progressing to. And I hate to say the next part before I end this, because I know that people are going to be like, oh my God, are you making such crazy accusations and victim shaming? No, that's not what I'm doing. It's just something that came to my mind, and I'm throwing it out there as a possibility. I'm not saying it's true. I'm not shaming if it is true. It is something to consider, though. Now, the friend, or a friend who claims to be a friend, said that they picked Heidi up at this building, which is just odd because she has a car. Why would you be picking her up at this building? But is there a possibility that Heidi was involved in some type of private business that involves something sexual? And could that be the reason why she frequented the building? If she did go to that building frequently. I have no idea. I'm probably way off base with that. But that did come to my mind because I watched some stinking documentary on YouTube one day. You know how YouTube suggests these weird videos, and if you don't change the video that you're listening to, it runs into other videos, and you're start listening to it because you're just doing whatever you're doing and you don't change the channel. Well, a video that I came across was of this woman that you would have never, ever, ever thought would be involved in something like that. And she had a whole family, a husband, kids, the whole 9 yards. And she was doing this on the side with her husband knowing what she was doing. And she always did it in one particular building. So that's the only reason why? What the heck did I just say? Guys, it's late. I'm going to bed. But that's the only reason why I came to that dot. Because I referenced back to this video that I watched about this woman. Okay, now I'm done. Because it's 12:30. By the time I upload, it's going to be 1 a.m. And I got to go to bed. Because I got family in town. That's that. So we're done for now. I'll be back tomorrow or on Sunday. I also have updates on the Murdaugh case that I want to talk about. And the other case that I did the other day, the missing Brandon Blansett. I have more information on his disappearance. There's been no developments on the Trumpy case. I haven't checked yet about the mysterious disappearance of 3 people, one of which who is now deceased in Oklahoma, but I'm going to check that after I stop this. And so you just got to bear with me right now because I do have family here and I got to fit this in somehow, some way. So I'm kind of off schedule right now. So please bear with me. And on that note, until next time, I'll see you soon.